West are preventing him from, him and his henchmen from sort of repatriating their money, travel bans, and further imposing on the country itself, maybe affecting it from growing. And of course, naturally, Mugabe is actually counting on this. He needs the West to do all these things to him, because it gives him the opportunity to explain to his people and say, well, I told you so. You know, the colonial masters are back onto their which is why Gordon Brown is sort of reluctant to come full-fledged and actually criticise the whole thing, you know, because Britain has been damaged in terms of their relationship with the country for some time.
Yes, I mean, do you think it's irresponsible in some ways, of, you know, given what you've just said, that the Independent on Sunday should take, you know, such a side really in it?
Yes, well, they've got to try, because there are a lot of problems with Zimbabwe. You know, there's poverty, there's hyperinflation, the economy is not being performed very well. But again, Mugabe would turn it around and say, well, if you didn't have the embargo against my country, I'll perform slightly better. If you didn't support me, I'll perform slightly better. How come is it that I can't get loans from the IMF and the World Bank? Do you see? So he's got all these angles to turn on. And I think the West should try and appease him. They should support him, but then you use clever tactics to curtail him. But by going in this fashion, I'm afraid you're walking straight into Mugabe land again, and yes. His hands, and he just plays. He's such a master stroke. He knows how to play the media. He knows how to play international delegates. Just can you imagine Thabo Mbeki from South Africa traveling all the way to see him?
Yes.
And he's turning around to and say, guys, I can't be there. I can't attend the conference. Sorry, guys. I'll send one of my part-timers to attend. You know, just shows you know, the type of man he is. So he's quite a smart man. Yeah.
Well, turning to Europe now, and the theme very different. It's in the French newspaper, the French daily newspaper Le Monde. En Europe, le répulsif anti-jeune séduit ou inquiète. The story is about what shall I call it, adolescent repellents. It's a device which emits a very high sound, which apparently repels young people, adolescents. If you have a problem with adolescents, that's what you need to install. And apparently they're very popular in Britain, unlike on the continent, by the way. And here in England they're called mosquito. Have you heard about these, Ayo?
Yes, I have, and I think it's wrong.
Why?
These sort of high sound pitches you accustom or attribute to animals' behavior, controlling dogs, controlling cats,
yeah.
and sometimes controlling insects that would otherwise bite you. But to do that to our kids, people that we love and care, they're human beings, to treat them in this fashion whereby they can't go in specific areas or environment, there's this loud pitch that affects their senses. I think it's wrong. It's
yes.
infringement of their civil liberties
yeah.
and their human rights.
You have a 10-year-old son. What do you think?
I think I completely agree. I mean, I think it's disgraceful. I think the interesting thing that we mentioned this earlier is that, you know, it's this war against teenagers, isn't it? It's war against youth. We're so terrified of teenagers now. Every day you see another story about hoodies. And the question is, you know, is it real or is it a media fiction? And I would definitely say it's a media fiction. It's, you know, it sells newspapers. Certain newspapers would encourage these kind of stories. And the fact that we have high-pitched noises scaring off human beings, as you say, not pigeons or rats or, you know, dogs, human beings. I think it's unbelievable, really.
I mean, yeah, if you push the envelope further, what's to stop the government or anybody who's actually creating these devices from increasing the pitch slightly more, that it starts affecting adults like us, and then it prevents us from going to specific areas, it's used as a control mechanism, it's an alternative to prison. What next?
Yes. Which really begs the question, why are they allowed in Britain? I mean, in France, for example, the French Minister of Health is here quoted as saying that they are absolutely wrong. In Belgium, they currently have an investigation going on, but the feeling is that they do not offer the correct solution in general. Same in the Netherlands. I mean, what's going on? What's going on here, Dan?
It's a good question, isn't it? I mean, why do we accept these things that aren't accepted in other countries? I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I mean, my feeling is that this war on teenagers is waged at a far greater pitch here than it is anywhere else. Again, I don't know that our teenagers are any more unruly than they are in France or Belgium or the Netherlands. I suspect not. what I suspect is that our newspapers are more rabid and love to kind of drum up these scare stories, probably more than in any other country.
I mean, there's a lot of trouble about knife crime in London, but presumably this wouldn't really have any remedial effect at all on incidents, on crime of that nature.
Well, it may help in specific trouble spots, hotspots, but I think our teenagers are being demonized unnecessarily, and by using this device, it's not addressing the problem.
Yes. What is the problem?
Well, the problem is poverty, inequality, and social exclusion, and until the government can actually tackle those issues, then I'm afraid all you're doing is just moving the trouble from one particular area to another.
So what's the solution, Dan? Summer camps?
Well, the solution, unfortunately, isn't an easy soundbite. I mean, as you say, that the problem, if we have problems with our youth, those problems are down to poverty, exclusion, a lack of things to do. You know, the government's closing down the playing fields at a remarkable rate. So I'm afraid there isn't an easy answer, but I don't think this is the answer to the problem, certainly.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we seem to agree on that. Moving forward to the Italian election taking place, of course, today and tomorrow. We've got the Italian daily in front of us, the Corriere della Sera, with the two main candidates, of course, on this page here. L'Italia alla urne. Italia goes to the polls. I know you've been following this story quite closely, but can the election result make any difference at all to what seems to be a very difficult moment in Italian history, doesn't it, Deo?
Yes, the Italians are looking for change. They want something new, but I'm afraid they may have to stick with some of the old. The economy is not doing very well. They've got Mr. Silvio Berlusconi, who's a 71-year-old, back again, very flamboyant leader. We've seen him in the past. He's very close to the West in terms of relationship with with President Bush and of course Blair, who's now left, and of course Gordon Brown. But
so it could be sort of reuniting old pals.
We could have that, but as to whether he's actually going to come and change the economy, he didn't do it in the past, and he's unlikely to do it again in the future. But he's been able to brand himself into this so-called new, revitalized figure, and how it's remarkable. A man in his early 70s.
Yes.
He looks as fresh as a daisy.
That's right. There's a 20-year age gap, isn't there, between him and Walter Veltroni, his contender, and it's looking at a picture here on the front page of IHT. You know, he doesn't look a day over, what, 51, would you say? It is remarkable. But of course the Italians are, according to some articles, sick of politics. They're sick of this man. They don't hold out that much hope for the other guy either, Walter Veltroni. I mean, there is a sort of temptation, I suppose, to look in between for a sort of a third way, an Anglo-Saxon style third way. What advice, Dan, given our own experience with third ways, would you offer to Italians who might be thinking along those lines?
Well, I think sadly that the new Labour experiment shows that the third way isn't necessarily a third way. I think many people feel that the new Labour have morphed into the Conservatives now, and there's really very little difference between them. So I'm afraid I'd say to the Italians, you know, your third way may not look so different than the two ways that you currently have already.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of Italians are, you know, fed up with politics. Is there any other way?
Well, they could get rid of both of them and try somebody else, but they can't. This is what they
let's
have.
start with these two for the moment.
Yes. I'm afraid if Berlusconi gets into power, then it will be more of the same. If the other chap, Veltroni, gets in, again, he may come with something new. He's never been there before. He may have a different approach.
Yes, someone who founded his own political party as well.
Yes, but the thing is, he lacks experience. You know, and he's not been able to sway a lot of the Italian voters. I understand that Berlusconi was leading by at least 7 points, and there's at least a third of the voting population who have not been swayed either way. So
yes. Well, we don't have a lot of time. Just coming to our final story in the Observer today: refugees fight forced return.